So we're looking here, you'll see it says part 5 of the Mosel. Now, the official name of this area we're looking at the Mosel is called the Bereich Bernkastel, or the district of Bernkastel. But it's actually more famously known as the Middle Mosel, or the Middle Mosel, which is that real sort of key centralized area north of Trier and Piesport, but below Koblenz. And the region we're looking at is the Mosel here, number 5 on your map. So there is the Mosel on the left-hand side, and we are looking at this area here on your map. So I've kind of gone a little bit closer there, just north of Trier, as I mentioned, and actually just below Zell for the area, and places like Ponderich as well. So it's this area we see here. And you can see that it's fairly large. I've put the amount of viticultural land at the bottom. It's by far the largest of the Mosel. We're looking at just over 5,500 hectares. That's about 13,800 acres. And it's often kind of called the Golden Mile or the Hollywood Mile, because it's the famous part of the Mosel, despite the fact that the most iconic vineyard of the Mosel is not here. It's actually in the Saar district, the Schatzhofberg. Now, here in this very meandering part of the beautiful Mosel River, you'll see the map and how the river is not a straight course, it's meandering from left and right. This is a really dramatic landscape where the river has cut its course through wonderful slate embankments. So you've got these real sort of show-stopping poster child vineyards here, and often because of the Hollywood influence here, the Golden Mile, often see the names of the vineyards with the villages up in the hills, like Ürziger Würzgarten, for example, or Wehlen and Sonnenuhr, which gives you that feel for Hollywood, of course. So there's some very famous villages here. If it's going to be Bernkastel, of course, Piesport, the likes of Wehlen, Zeltingen as well. There's loads of famous vineyards, and therefore vineyards, villages, then vineyards, but also vintners as well. There's also small little side valleys that have gone into the river here as well. Now, what are we expecting for these wines? Well, there's often a traditional note to these wines. Many of them are Praderketswein with some level of sugar, but always, all Rieslings, despite whether being sweet or dry, have this beautiful, fresh liveliness, nerviness, zest, and vibrance. So there's also a little bit of Müller-Thurgau here, Dornfelder on the slightly flatter landscape, but really it is all about Riesling for the famed style. So let's have a look at our first location. We're going to be moving in this presentation from the bottom left-hand corner, so the southwest, following the northeasterly course of the river as it heads past Bernkastel and up to Trabant-Trabach. So that's our journey. So we'll start down in this southern section to begin with. And it's where we find Leiwen, the first area. So you see we've got this wonderful bend here, goes through Tornich and Kovarek, and then down to this larger town here, which is actually opposite Trittenheim. And this is our real first dramatic hairpin meander of the Mosel, of the part that we're looking at. It's real solid slate, which is very typical. And the village itself sits on an open stretch of the Mosel River plain. Let's have a look at a slightly better view here. Very famous for Grand Fashion that you'll see on the left-hand side. And the individual vineyard that we're looking at is one that is over the river from the Klostergarten, and it is called Laurentiuslay. And this sits on deep weathered slate. It's kind of facing south and southwest that you'll see here, and it has a great vantage point on the river bend. And you often get a lot of heat here being directly next to the river, but also with great air circulation. I've always found them quite opulent in style for a Mosel Riesling, a little bit away from the traditional kind of steely, bright expressions. So we're going to be following the river down as we go past that picture where we're looking towards the Altachen, opposite the Klostergarten and the Laurentiuslay that we were on here, going past the Felsenkopf, coming round this bend to Trittenheim, which just sits the other side of the hill. And here we're actually going to be looking at the Apotheke down here in the southern section, but it's not contiguous. There are a number of sites to this one. So Trittenheim is a fairly important village, and the vineyards on this, what could be considered a peninsula, are gentle in their gradient, and those on the opposite on the bank, which is to the south and to the east, they rise steeply to forest-crowned peaks, where you'll see the likes of the peaks of the Brauneberg just here, for example, at 375 meters. So we're going to be taking a look at this bend here in Trittenheim. And here you'll see one of those Hollywood-esque signs, the Trittenheim Apotheke there in the back right, and a bottle on the left that you'll see that gives you an idea of the individual site. So this word is the word for apothecary, but the name is a distortion of the word Abteibird or Bishop's Hill. It's that curvature, as we know, on the bend, and it follows the contours of that bend with southerly and southwesterly exposures, and of course quite steep slopes like you see in the background there, with varying amounts of row orientation, typically going from higher gradient to lower gradient, but it does vary at this site. We then come round to an important town, and this is Piesport, that you'll see sitting in the middle of quite a congested, concentrated amount of viticultural land. And this is, in some people's minds, famous, this village, this town, and in some people's infamous, depending on where you look. And that is because of the reformation of German wine laws in the 1970s, which has many critics. And that's where you find that there was a large Größerlager produced, a really large sort of site called Piesporter Michelsberg, which is just generic Piesporter wine from all over this area, not specific to a single vineyard. And it was often quite sweet, fairly similar actually in its heyday to Liebfraumilch from regions like Rheinhessen. Now, of course, people see that on the label, see the word Piesporter, they try this kind of quite sweet, simple wine, and they declare they don't like it. So then when they see Piesporter, potentially Piesporter Goldtröpfchen or Piesporter Treppchen, for example, any of these other names, they will avoid them because they have already had a bad experience. Now, there's a few row of houses just off the river which give off to this main attraction, which is this steep bowl of vines that come around in this beautiful crest, generally facing south. So southeast, south, and southwest. We're going to look at the most famous, and it's going to be our first iconic site of this presentation, hence why we have this yellow star. Now, this is Goldtröpfchen. This is a beautiful sweeping vineyard that sits more down the river, but it's famed for Riesling. It really is southern exposure. And I'll show you back on the map previously exactly where that's laying. Here you go. So you can see that Goldtröpfchen here kind of comes round in the Alt Piesport area where the picture is actually from, and then it comes round in this slightly westerly facing as well. So we're looking here at the bridge crossing the road. And that's where you are. Here, the bridge is just to the left-hand side of this picture. And you can see the words there, the Hollywood sign there of Piesporter Goldtröpfchen up in that top area as well. This is once again slate, Devonian slate, with a little bit of mixed quartz. And we have quite a few famous producers here. There's the Leise Castle here, the Schloss Leise, you'll see a picture of in your slide, which is a VDP producer. Next up is the Brauneberg. So this is once again down the river, quite a congested village location here, quite a few things going on. And the Romans knew this place as Doucement, which from the Latin mons dulcis, meaning sweet mountain, probably in reference to the quality and the sweetness of the wine that is produced from this location. Now, Brauneberg was the only village placed in the top rank in an 1806 classification of Mosel, but it's kind of not dramatically taken charge of that. It's kind of fallen out of fashion, back in fashion, but there are some great producers here. Certainly when you look at Juffer and Wehlener Sonnenuhr, these two areas just up here. And that's what we'll look at first. So you'll see Brauneberg over on this far side. There is the Mosel. Leiser in the background. Juffer just here, Wehlener Sonnenuhr, and then in the foreground, that's Paulinslay in the foreground. Just give you an idea of this picture is where we're really looking down the river, but more in this kind of direction from the west to the east, just going back on that so you can see it here. So yeah, the picture's kind of taken from Mosel, or maybe the mountain actually up here, the Moseler Hüttenkopf, looking towards the Paulinslay, Wehlener Sonnenuhr, that kind of direction is what we're looking at. And Brauneberg is just here. So that's the direction. Fritz Haag, very famous producer as well, located here. And you can see from the picture that this is fairly steep. Some good altitude, south facing, on slate again, and a little bit of oxidizing iron in the soil here. It tends to give it a little bit of a spicy note, and it's slightly more savory in style. Do look out for the Wehlener Sonnenuhr as well, but we're now going to be looking even more downriver in the heart of the Middle Mosel, which is the Bernkastel village itself. Bernkasteler Kues is its full name. Bernkastel is this area here, the old traditional village. Cross the bridge, and it's the developed, newer part of the village, which is what we know as Kues. Okay, so Bernkasteler Kues here. So really, this has a lot of history. Since the 19th century, it's certainly been one of Mosel's most famed and celebrated towns. It has beautiful view over the valley, and you've only got to look down the river and you're looking at the dramatic slopes of, say, Graach, Wehlen, all the way to Zeltingen as well. Loads of people visit here. It's always on the bucket list of Mosel tourism, and the vineyards are all sitting on its right bank. So the village is just to the north, and that is famous areas such as Doctor, Ley, Johannes Brunchen, and Brattenhofchen as well. But we're going to just talk about the one, the Doctor, which sits really immediately behind the old village, and that's what you'll see just here. Beautiful place here, full of lots of wine pubs, beautiful architecture that you'll see here, and then dramatically backed by that backdrop of great vineyards. It's exceptionally iconic, hence why we're giving it that yellow star on your slide. And the etymology here, so the name of the vineyard, we think refers to a legend concerning a local bishop who was said to be cured of a really life-threatening medical condition after drinking wine from this vineyard. I am always doing that. I'm actually not under threat, but just in case, I'm always going around these vineyards and trying whatever they have on offer. Parcels here are very much sought after for the fact that they have this dramatic gradient. It's south-southwest exposure. It's Devonian slate. It has good water retention and welcome airflow. You could say that it's really absolutely quintessential Middle Mosel vineyard. There are lots of ungrafted Riesling vines here, so Würzlegt, and you get these beautiful wines with harmony, freshness, minerality, and they have been known in the past, many, many years ago, to be some of the most expensive wines from the whole of Germany. Now we're going to go downriver just a little bit more to a village which is very small but often gets overlooked because it is sandwiched between Bernkastel and Wehlen, and that is Graach. Okay, so there's Wehlen. We were just down here in Bernkastel. Here's a part of Kues. Very small village here, Graach, but it has real important vineyard sites. So this is a significant vineyard area and really famed for an iconic site, which is called the Kingdom of Heaven, and that is the Himmelreich. You actually see the name of it is there. It's a little bit different to a Hollywood sign because it's a full white background with black letters upon it. Really put on the map by the J.J. Prüm family. You'll see their label on the left-hand side for making slightly more minerally fragrant floral expressions of Rieslings in comparison to the Wehlener Sonnenuhr, which is just down the river on the same slope. Southern exposure again though here, weathered Devonian slate, ungrafted single staked vines. The wines here, I love their floral, slightly herbal raciness behind them. Gorgeous cabernet character for the Himmelreichs. The next one is actually right close to Graach, the village you'll see just here, and this is Domprobst. This is a parcel within Himmelreich, and what they like to say is the most choice cut of the vineyard. It's up to 73% slope gradient with south-southwest. Blue and grey slate and some clay, and here you have good water retention as well in the Domprobst. Then we come to the next village along. The next village is actually not on the right bank, it's on the left bank, and that's Wehlen. You'll see it here. So we were on Graach. We have to come down here and cross the bridge at Wehlen to get to the village. And this is the home of Weingut J.J. Prüm, very important, of course, and iconic producer, and also the home of the most iconic and famed sundial in the vineyard, which is the Sonnenuhr, which is what we find within the Wehlener Sonnenuhr vineyard. Brilliant ageability, a bit more breadth and roundness in the style, and I have included another bottle here of a J.J. Prüm because they are iconic from here. The Prüm Weingut and house is just down here, right on the river. But look at those slopes; it's beautifully dramatic. So the Sonnenuhr is a prime iconic site, hence why we've got that yellow star again, and it's south-facing again, Devonian slate again. We do have forests here that crown the top here, less so down towards Graach. And in 1842. It was the Wehlener winemaker Johannes Prüm who produced a large Sonnenuhr sundial. He produced many of them, but the most famous one is here. There's another one in Zeltingen as well. They would be able to tell their time, the workers in these slopes, because of its beautiful south exposition. Today there are several hundred of these. The most famous being here, but also Zeltingen. Brauneberg has one, Ürzig as well. And we do go to Zeltingen again. as our next place. So we're going down the river a bit more. Before this rather dramatic bend is the village of Zeltingen, and we're going to be looking here at the Sonnenuhr again site on this one. Beautiful area, Zeltingen, and this is the Sonnenuhr, which is just before the river. So the bend is going around here. Here is the village, so Zeltingen, and here is the Sonnenuhr, smaller site. But it's classic here, slate, steep, south-southwest, a bit of a carbon copy, to be honest, of Wehlen and Sonnenuhr. The wines are just a little less complex. We then go round that bend, and we will have a village on the left bank as we follow the Mosel, which is Ürzig. Let's change your slide for you here. And here we come round that bend, so we're just down here. We have Ürzig and Erden. We're going to talk about Ürzig first of all. So here it's really different. It starts to shift because instead of having that sort of blue-grey slate, the Devonian slate, here we do have some of that, but there's actually more red slate and sandstone which break through the cover of the vines. So we have this beautiful mixture of green and reds in the landscape here. It's an old producing village, and wine was documented here first in 690. Beautiful wines, and you know, the major vineyard, which you'll see there, which dominates most of your slide, is the one that is named Spiced Garden or Würzgarten, that you'll see there, Hollywood sign and everything on the left-hand side. So this is on that red slate and sandstone, contains iron-rich rhyolite, and it's some of the highest vineyards in the Mosel with a south-southeasterly exposure and steep gradient. So you get this roundness that comes from the iron-based soil in the wines, fruitier perhaps, and with a sort of a lovely little nuance of spice as well. So quite lovely. And that is what we hope, because of course it's called the Spice Garden. Dr. Umar here, quite important, her man. Coming around here to Erden, which is on the right bank of the river, and the vineyards we're looking at here for importance are Prälat and Treppchen, which are sitting on the left bank. So Prälat, first of all, a small but mighty vineyard. And what I'm showing you here, so we're going to look at another picture, the bottle of Dr. Oman on the left-hand side. You see where this road is coming through here. I know this is a little bit confusing, but that's actually a sort of a bird's eye view of the vineyards. And then here is a picture looking towards the vineyards from, let's say, the right bank. Okay, so I've kind of amalgamated these two pictures. Maybe you can get your head around that, but you'll see Krankley, Erdener Prälat, just here, Erdener Treppchen. So we're going to look at this really sort of scattered bit, and you can see these pictures here, and you can see a sundial in the foreground. Real dramatic vineyard, this one. As I mentioned, small but mighty. It's just 1.5 hectares, which is 3.7 acres. Fairly steep, as you can see, south-facing, producing elegant but complex styles and some good botrytized examples as well. And then next to that is the more larger Erdener Treppchen. This is the Dr. Lucen here. You can see it's more expansive here. There's the Hollywood sign on the picture. And Treppchen means staircase or little staircase. And it's an apparent reference to the steepness here that you find. Lots of sort of stairway named vineyards due to the link to monasteries who would build these often as stairways to God, for example. Iron-rich south-southwest on this one. Dr. Lucen, a significant producer here. The next one is not any specific sites we'll go through, but Kröv is filled with tourists, and many drawn by its wines bearing the infamous Nacktrash or bear ass designation. And the original name is thought to derive from the Celtic word nakas, meaning rocky elevation, which aptly describes the topography, which could do for any of these parts of the Middle Mosel. Some really great sites: Letterley, Kirchley, Paradis, Stephansberg. So some good sites to look out for. There's a bottle there of Stephansberg as well. There's also the oldest continuously operating winery in play here, the Staffelter Hof, which was founded in 862 CE. Our last little foray as we go down the river is to Enkirch, which you see just here. And we'll talk about a very small site here called Batterieberg, and then the large site here of Stephansberg. They're the two that we'll focus on. And this is where the Mosel goes around a real wonderful bend. It's one of the tightest bends in the Mosel. And the apex of that, which is just to the south of your map here, is Trabach. It's a real important village historically from the Middle Ages to the early 20th century. But in 1859, a really damaging fire destroyed most of its old medieval buildings. And the town was, of course, rebuilt, but it was reconstructed in more of an Art Nouveau style, which, of course, attracted many tourists. And what came as a back of this was a lot of the local wines around that would just feed into that tourism instead of looking at more quality. Then you had the impact of history, 2 world wars, Nazism, and Trabach has never really regained a foothold since that. But the village just down the river from Trabach, which is the one you see here, Enkirch, certainly has had a long history. At one time, it actually cultivated vineyards more than any other commune in the Mosel, but it's always still, weirdly, been less famous than most of its buddies. There's a lot of single vineyard sites here, so it's quite exciting. The first one we'll focus on is the one down here to the south, close to Trabach, and that is Batterieberg. Got one of those monorail systems in play just here. And this is a small parcel on grey slate. It has a bit of quartzite, and it has a number of ungrafted vines in play just here. You'll see the word Batterieberg just up there on that picture. And then when we come up to the Stephansberg, what we're looking at here is quite a nice picture where we're looking towards the east. So you'll see the Edelberg. We've got the Montenubel, Stephansberg. So we're really looking across it from its west to its east, and then the Ehrenberg just here. So we go back to this picture. We are basically kind of looking at a picture all the way back here this way, where you see Edelberg, Montenubel, Stephansberg, Ehrenberg, Zepfingert as well, which is behind the bottle picture that you see just here. It's actually just behind this. So here is your slope of the Stephansberg. So it's on a side valley on deep grey and red slate soils, which can give a distinctive aromatic, savoury to spicy note on these wines. Well worth looking out for. That brings me to a conclusion for part 5. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. There's one part in the Mosel to go through, part 6, looking at Bergbochen, which is the lower Mosel or the Terrassen Mosel, the Mosel terraces. If you wish to watch that video, plus any of the other exclusive video content in this series and beyond, you'll need to go along to the Wine with Jimmy portal and sign up to the Wine with Jimmy Club. The Wine with Jimmy Club is just $3.99 a month, gives you access to all these things, lots of great stuff to watch, and it is something you don't have to have continuously. It's a recurring monthly $3.99. Any comments or questions, again, please do get in touch. But Dankeschön. Until next time, I've been Jimmy. Ciao.